Well, the heat dome is a coming to the Americas. Okay. As a matter of fact, it be here today. As of July 2nd, 2026, New York City alone is scheduled to have temperatures of 100 degrees with a feel like temperature of 110. Let's take a look at the news reporting. Stay tuned.
It's really just the start here in New York City as this heat dome builds off to the east. This city in the metro area is now under a extreme heat warning that'll probably last right into the weekend. All the pink areas are where those warnings exist. So that's over 100 million Americans in dozens of big cities like Nashville, St. Louis, Chicago, you name it, they're in it. And this jet stream is surging north, the heat dome in place. That means high pressure, not just at the surface, but top to bottom in the atmosphere, over land, lots of sinking air, sunshine baking that ground and heating things up dramatically. And that's where we get the temperatures well up into the 90s. But with the humidity, it'll feel like well up and over 100 degrees in Chicago, in Cincinnati, in Pittsburgh. And this all shifts to the east tomorrow. And so New York gets into it. And by the time we get to Thursday and Friday, we're talking about actual high temperatures that will be record shattering over the next several days.
We give the proper warning, and it was kind of shocking because I felt like New York has always had a heat wave issue. So for those who are new, welcome to my channel. My name is Lena, and I'm here to bring facts, joy, laughter, sadness, the gambit, because I'm not a one niche type of girl. So I hope that you understand and enjoy this content and you're willing to stay and watch my other videos on different variations of topics. Today, we're having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave. And this is in relation to the issues that are happening in Europe. So this is part 2 of the heat wave that is now striking the Americas. So here's the issue. I'm born and raised New Yorker, and I left when I was about 40 to Miami, Florida. And I stayed there for about 15 years. And I left in 2011. Now, being a New Yorker, I've experienced many, many heat waves. So when I heard that this heat wave was coming, because I lived in Miami for so long, I'm already accustomed to this kind of minutia. Because Miami, they don't play, as far as air conditioning, everything is central air, everywhere you go, it's a driving state. On top of that, you don't have a lot of transportation options, especially when I moved there. So, air conditioning is not just a convenience, it's a right, practically. Okay. So when I left in 2011, what was interesting is that when I came and I heard about this one that's happening now, I was like, but this is odd. They keep saying this is record heat, record heat. And then I realized, because of watching the news, that we haven't had such a dramatic heat wave in New York City since 2010, which makes sense because I left in 2011, and coming back to hear this, I'm like, oh, okay, it's been a long time. So there's a lot of people who have moved here from other states, countries, regions, whatever, that probably has not experienced a New York City heat wave, which is comprised with humidity, which makes it worse. It's not an Arizona dry heat situation where, it's 110, 120. It's dry heat, still disgustingly hot. But the humidity makes it a whole lot worse. You're going to have chia hair. You might as well just slick that baby back and not even look at it and just don't. Put on SPF 5000, bring as much water in one of those buckets if you can, because I remember these heat waves. And because, again, of being in Miami, I wouldn't go outside. I didn't enjoy Miami. I lived there for 15 years. I did enjoy it. So I'm back. Of course, when I come back, now the same freaking heat that hits Miami is hitting New York. I'm like, really? So let's take a look at, how our city responds to this type of dangerous heat. Okay. Mayor Mandani's office and how they explain what we should and shouldn't do, etc., etc. Stay tuned.
And to employers, please build flexibility into this week and look out for your people. No job is worth someone's health or their life. And please check on the people around you. Older neighbors, young children, anyone living alone or without working air conditioning. We know from experience here and around the world that heat takes lives quietly at home among the isolated. The most powerful tool we have this week is not a forecast or a cooling center. It is a New Yorker knocking on a neighbor's door to make sure that they are okay.
That is how we deal with the heat wave in New York. And I am presuming in all of the American states that they give fair warning, explanation, what you shouldn't do, be kind to your neighbors, check on them, etc., etc. You know, because we understand that being in a very hot, humid, or even hot for Arizona hot, or California hot, or wherever else this dome is hitting, it's not a joke. Lives are being lost, okay? And this is a very serious topic. Meanwhile, in France, let's take a look at how they're dealing with this. Stay tuned.
So France is blaming America for the record heat wave happening across Europe that has unalived over 1,300 people, specifically blaming America's air conditioning. Paris's deputy mayor, Audrey Pulvar, who blamed America, said, "Dear American journalists and social media influencers, for days some of you have been criticizing and making fun of Paris because the city does not have AC in every room. OMG, this is so rich. As the second largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions in the world, you bear a significant amount of responsibility for global warming and the consequences we in France are experiencing. Your cities, which are 90% air conditioned, are not unrelated to this. So please, enough with the lecture, just start doing your part." And Americans saw this and went on X to hit back at France, like Diga and CPA. They really think this is what's happening. Super Trucker, if you say so. Kira, the F we do. Katie, you guys could just get air conditioning. It is available. Dustin, the European mind cannot comprehend this. Absolute Resolve, good one, showing that China is #1 in CO2 emissions and not the US. And Demobyte showing a meme that regardless of anything, they will just always blame the US. Please follow for more news. And do you believe the US is to blame?
I have a sense that the people in France don't like Americans. And I also have this sense that there is a school for politicians worldwide that trains them to distract in any means possible from the issue at hand. Because I feel like so many politicians here and abroad, apparently, don't address the problem. They deflect and defer it to someone else to blame. Because in nothing that I hear does it resolve the immediate situation. And this has been going on for a while now. So instead of addressing it, like, be kind to your neighbor, maybe she did, I don't know. But at the end of the day, putting the blame on anybody else, then figuring out how to fix the problem seems like the way that politicians are trained. Don't talk about the issue, deflect, and then put the blame on someone else. Because when I heard this, I was like, what did I do? What? Now, there could be some truth. Apparently, China has a role to play in this as well. So why is she not picking? I guess because, they don't talk. I presume. I don't know. I don't know what's happening over there. But it's still hot. Let's take a look at the news reporting from a news reporter about Europe in general. Stay tuned.
In France, the authorities are reporting that over 9 days, at least 1,000 people have died in incidents related to the heat. Funeral homes in the French capital, Paris, are now reporting that they are under pressure, rapidly running out of space and being overwhelmed with the need to safely store the bodies of those who have died. It's a difficult situation for those working in the funeral industry as well as those who have relatives who have died. The French Interior Minister has said said that they are now providing extra ice boxes where needed, but he denies that France has not been prepared for this heat wave.
The death toll from this brutal heat wave continues to rise. In Spain, we are hearing alarming reports of more than 200 fatalities. This is according to a public health institute linked to the public health ministry. And the majority of those fatalities, we understand, are people over the age of 65. Here
Every summer, London turns into an oven, and yet most homes still don't have air conditioning. Here's why. The first answer that comes to mind, and I'm sure many of you are typing it in the comments right now, is that London summers used to be much cooler, and that's why homes don't have air cons. And that's true, but it's not the only reason. Yes, summers in London are getting hotter year by year, and the city is literally not designed for these temperatures. London has very old housing stock, with millions of people living in properties built in the Victorian era or even earlier. Naturally, these homes were built at a time when summers simply weren't this hot. But then, why don't most newly built homes and buildings have air conditioning either? Surely by now they know temperatures are rising. There are two main reasons. First, regulations. Air conditioning has effectively been discouraged by government policy for years. In many new developments, it's almost banned. Developers have to prove they've exhausted every passive cooling option first, like planting trees, adding shading, or designing buildings for natural airflow. That's also why London planners push hard for dual aspect flats, homes with windows on two sides, so air can flow through the building and carry heat out naturally. And then there's the grid fear. Planners genuinely worried that if everyone switched on AC at the same time during a heatwave, the electricity network could struggle to cope. How are you coping with the
So I ask you, is it really worth your life? I generally don't listen, understand. Listen, there is no one perfect location to live. We have issues here in America, political and more. You know, we are not a perfect country. And, you know, the fact that you have other countries that have a disdain for aircon, or a disdain for one country because, you know, they don't want to get aircon and blame us, is a very small other issue that other countries have. But when you're talking about lives, I don't know, it seems a little, you know, sensical to weigh those differences out. Now, I understand the power grid situation, but I go back to what I said. They've had years to plan this out, and it's not going to be easy, and they have more years. And if this gets worse, there's going to be an influx of people that are going to leave that entire region for the summer. You know, like we have winter birds here in New York, in the United States, where people come here, escaping the winter from wherever they are, and they go, you know, to warmer places during our winter season. It's going to get to a point where it's going to be unsustainable, because when you hear about the death toll, and may they rest in peace, you have pets, you have elderly, you have babies, you have children, you have families. I'm trying to wrap my head around your reasoning behind this. Greenhouse emissions. Okay. Find a temporary solution until you can scale that greenhouse issue. I don't know what the resolution is because I don't follow the greenhouse stuff, but I know that there's got to be there's got to be something, because I feel that I'm going to come back this time next year and it's going to be the same thing, maybe even worse, because we have not stopped having heat issues in the United States. It hasn't stopped. Okay, and depending on where you live, it can be predominantly really worse than what we might be getting in this heat dome. And I have a feeling that the generation that's fighting this now, that's bringing up the next generation, this in 1 or 2 generations is going to phase out. They're going to be like, yo, I appreciate you and I understand what you're saying, but I need to breathe. I need to sleep. I need to be able to work. Okay, it's gotten to a point where they being Europeans from whatever European country they're from, has this to say about Americans and how we treat ailments. Let's take a look.
How come you guys do not have air conditioning everywhere?
Because we can just open the windows. And also comfort is over-comforted. America is obsessed with comfort. Everything has to be comfortable. No, life is hard and sometimes you need to suffer. We just open our windows. It's called Stoßlüften, where you open all windows at the same time, even when it's cold, when it's like negative 15 degrees, and you still open the windows and then the cold air can just come in and penetrate the room, and then it eradicates all the state air. It leaves nothing but pure. Yeah, Americans are bad at handling comfort.
That's why we have so many pillows. In
And
Germany,
pills.
Pills and pillows.
Pills. Oh, I have a little oopsie whoopsie. I have a ouchie fouchie. Take Tylenol, take this. In Germany, we take a walk. We just march it off.
So I presume Germany doesn't like us either, because we're ouchie fouchies and we're pills and pillows. And, you know, if you get hurt, just walk it off. If you're uncomfortable, walk it off. You know, I find it fascinating that he's very young and viral, or at least he looks like it. What about people who can't just walk it off, who have ailments that require a natural flow of air that has nothing to do with 400-degree temperatures in your, I want to say apartments, but that's not what they're called, I think, out there. I don't know if he speaks for every person in Germany, but they don't have air conditioning either. And they look at Americans as being too soft. Listen, I'm not going to agree with every part of modern medicine. I do believe that as far as big pharma and some of the medical ailments that we have that are just shoved in our face with a pill, there is some truth to that. I do believe that sometimes we are over-medicating for certain things. Ozempic. You know, there could be slight truth for that. I will give people who feel that way their credence, but this is not about pills and pillows. What the hell does pillows have to do? Like, what, I can't have a pillow? I can't have an extra pillow? What are the hotels like in Germany then? Can someone from Germany, if you're watching this, let me know. If I can't have an extra, if I call down for an extra pillow, are you going to come back and smack me with it? What is wrong with comfort? Well, let's take a look at this person's breakdown on the effects of not being comfortable. Stay tuned.
So it turns out not having air conditioning is going to make you a lot poorer. Here in the UK, about 5% of homes have air conditioning, and in the US it's around 90%. And while that gap may seem small, it's actually quietly killing Europe's economy. So if you take a look at this chart here, you'll see that there's a threshold, roughly around the 30-degree mark, where heat goes from being uncomfortable and starts becoming quite detrimental for your life. For context, in London this week, it's been around 38 degrees, and across the channel in France, it's upwards of 40. Now, obviously this makes your sleep worse, but it also makes your brain less active, so you're less productive and work way worse. And it also affects kids, as they can't concentrate as well in school, so over time their grades continue to slip. And Allianz have actually put a number on this. They've estimated that by 2030, so just 4 years time, this could all wipe off $600 billion from Europe's top economies, with France being the worst hit. Now, this isn't some new phenomenon. In fact, it's been known for decades. The man who founded modern Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, preached about this as early as the 1960s, and one of the first things he did when he came into government was installing air conditioning units in every single one of their official buildings. But Europe instead has this weird mentality around it. They surveyed people in France and found that 60% of residents would rather just put up with the heat than install air conditioning. And here in the UK, the government are trying to actively ban it. And the BBC have actually suggested that you can simply paint your windows with Greek yogurt to get rid of the heat instead of installing air conditioning. Now, as noble as this all might sound, it's actively making our brains work less and our pockets hurt more.
Well, how do you react to that? I think there is some truth to that. I know that we have heat issues related to people dying, exhaustion, mental capacity, you're tired, you don't want to move, you can't, if you hear noise, it's the landscaper. My apologies, I can't mute it out. I think it's a known fact. I mean, just look at someone, the dogs, the pets, you think that they're going to be running a marathon? You think that I'm going to be wanting to get into a train station and go to work and be like hot the whole time and be a functioning member of society? That's impossible. It's literally impossible. Okay. So if we know this and they know this, I go back to one thing that I asked in the beginning. What is the solution? Other than blaming someone else for your woes, what is the solution? You can work on two things at the same time. I presume you know how to, walk and chew gum at the same time. Why can't you figure out a temporary solution for now to get you through the next whatever time it takes to get to your main goal, which is more greenhouse emission, kind of thing? Because I don't see any plans. I hear a lot of people talking crap, but there is no plan of action. Not that I'm aware of, because I'm not closely following, but if anybody from those regions have any kind of conception that you could speak freely without being called a leftist or a rightist or a ding dong or a doofus or whatever the hell is going on out there, and you want to join the community and join the comments and put your 2 cents into it, do it. Because this is a very fascinating situation where, I don't think that a miracle is going to happen and all of a sudden the winds are going to change and they're going to have their beautiful summers that didn't require any air conditioning, and all you have to do is open up a whole bunch of windows and have the flow of air, and you only had one pillow and you never took any medicine and you just walked it off. I think that this is going to get progressively worse, and I really feel that there's going to be a generational shift that's going to be like, yeah, listen, you had your time. You knew this was happening. I can't function this way. Either I'm leaving or I'm getting an air conditioner, or I'm going to fight for air conditioning, because there are people right now that are fighting to have air conditioning in each home. How that's going to work if you don't have the electrical grid, it's all going to come out, because the truth is out there. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you're following this. If you're in this, my apologies. I can't even imagine. I went out yesterday and it hadn't hit the 100-degree mark. Today, as I said, it's going to be 100 degrees in New York City with the humidity and the real feel of 110. And I know that the people in my neighborhood do have air conditioning. So, I don't have to go and check on them. And we are very, very, very much into our AC. And, I pray for those that are in our region that don't have that capability, and that there's at least the common sense from your area that they have these cooling centers. They help, they really do help out. But also, anybody here in the States, how are you dealing with this? Do you have air conditioning? I don't know. I pray that you do. I pray that you have the ability to be in an area where you can walk to it and cool yourself off. There's the fire hydrants, the pumps, the parks, the pools are open. It's just going to be a madhouse. This is one of the hottest 4th of Julys that has ever been on record since 2010. So there's a lot of new people who have never experienced this. But thankfully we do have areas, and I can tell you from, if you're in Miami, in Florida, everywhere is air conditioned. Everywhere. I don't know about California, but I know that Florida, the whole state, everybody has air conditioning. They don't play. It's not a joke. So let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. For anyone who's new watching, and if I brought value to you, I hope that you consider joining my community and you share, like, hype, subscribe, and just leave a general comment saying hello from the hot place that you're living in right now. Stay tuned. I've got another video coming up for you. I'm doing 3 today. Let's see how I get through it. Hopefully I can upload all 3, but at least I can get 2 out today and then 1 tomorrow. And then I'm working on Sex in the City Sunday. I hope I can do it. I don't want to disappoint anybody, but if I can't, I will come in on Sunday and let you know what is the targeted if I can't get it out, only because, like I said, we're having a block party here on the 4th of July, Saturday. But unfortunately, the weather is not going to hold up. It's going to be raining in the afternoon. And that's going to put a nail in the block party plans. And not only are we having a block party, families coming over. So it's one of those things that even if it's raining, I won't be able to do any editing. So if I can't bring it to you Sunday, I would at least come on camera and tell you Hello. Is it me you're looking for? Have a blessed day, everyone. Thank you. Goodbye.